You're listening to Beyond Wellness Radio, bringing you the cutting edge in health, biohacking, and sports performance. Stay up to date and listen anywhere and anytime on your computer, tablet, or smartphone by subscribing on iTunes. Catch your host, Dr. Justin Marchegiani, as he answers your burning health questions as well as interviews from world-renowned guest experts. For more Beyond Wellness Radio, go to beyondwellnessradio.com.
Hey there, it's Dr. Justin Marchegiani. Welcome to Beyond Wellness Radio. Feel free and head over to beyondwellnessradio.com where you can access our full podcast transcriptions. While you're there, you can also sign up for our thyroid and female hormone video series. This series goes into the root cause of why your hormones are out of balance. While you're there, you can also schedule a functional medicine consult with Dr. Justin, myself, where we'll dig deeper into the root cause of your health challenges. Feel free and think of sharing this podcast with at least one person. This podcast grows by people sharing it. Sharing is caring. If you can think of one person that can benefit from this information, please feel free and share it. If you're enjoying the podcast, make sure you subscribe on iTunes. You can also click below the video or podcast where you'll see the iTunes review button and leave us a review. You can also sign up for the newsletter at beyondwellnessradio.com where you'll get updates before anyone else. Thank you so much and enjoy the show.
Hey there, it's Dr. Justin Marchegiani. Welcome back to the podcast. We have Dr. Mariza Snyder on the show today. Dr. Snyder is a hormone expert and essential oil expert, which is great because essential oils can be really helpful and they can really help with the stress response. So we're going to dive into the hormones. We're going to dive into some things that you can do right now to help kind of push your hormones back into balance. Dr. Mariza, welcome to the podcast. How you doing?
Thank you so much for having me. I am great. I'm so happy to be here.
Excellent. Very cool. So I'm just curious. I was talking to you kind of pre the show. When I was in doctorate school, you were actually right on the way out, just a couple quarters before me. So I actually remember you. We were kind of reminiscing a bit. And I wanted to kind of, how did you make your exit on the doctorate chiropractic side into the functional medicine hormone side? What was that journey like for you?
Absolutely. Well, the even reason why I pivoted the way that I did, so for 15 years, when I was a little girl, 7 years old, I basically had some pretty crazy head traumas, neck traumas, and that led to chronic migraine pain. And I was told, I can't tell you how many times I was told I was going to live with this pain. And I believed it for so long. Yeah. Well, fast forward, growing up, I struggled. I missed slumber parties. I missed school. I missed all the fun things. I remember as a kid just thinking, man, I missed out so much on life because I was in pain all the time. Like these migraines would wipe me out for days on end, just in a dark room with a cold cloth over my head, just praying to go to sleep. So 24, I am a biochemist at a Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory. Oh, wow, yeah. And there was a woman there who was like, listen, I have a doctor who could probably get you well and that get well from your migraines. I'll be honest with you, at that point, it had been 15 years and I did not believe any of it. I was like, I don't know. This is my lot in life, Miss Thing. I'm stuck with this. I got my drugs. As long as I can beat this sucker every single day or every other day, I'm good. I'm going to go become a medical doctor. I'm going to go prescribe meds just like I am taking right now. It just made no sense whatsoever. But when you don't know that there's a different paradigm, you just kind of follow along in suit. But because the practitioner was on the way home, I went and sought out care, and it was interesting. It was more of a functional practice and I didn't realize what a functional practice was. I didn't even know anything like this existed. I did have chiropractors growing up, and unfortunately, they weren't able to clear out those migraines, but this practice had acupuncture, upper cervical, nutrition, the whole gamut of things. And after 90 days of care, I was migraine free, and it blew my mind. So that opened up the idea of this idea of healing that I'd never even thought of before. Literally switched paths like that. This was over a summer. I was heading off to medical school, switched paths over to chiropractic school because this was the thing. And throughout that process, I was still educating and learning and thinking to myself, like, how does the body have the ability to heal? And nutrition became a really big part of my life. So once I got into practice, most of the women I was treating were dealing with hormone issues. I was also dealing with hormone issues because why not have another health issue after this other one? And I realized that although chiropractic could be supportive to some of the things, that it was really nutrition and lifestyle and really getting to the core root of what was going on with them that was going to move the needle. So that became a big part of the practice.
That's cool. I remember, if I remember correctly, you were an upper cervical chiro expert, right?
I was, because of the migraines. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I'm just curious, how far, like if we just kind of quantify as a percentage, how far did the upper cervical get you versus the other half where you were incorporating more natural and nutritional and supplemental techniques?
Absolutely. Well, it was definitely case by case. Some people like myself had a physical injury, and it was, things were wrong. There was misalignments, there were problems up at C1, C2. So, but then there were other instances where a lot of women that I was treating had migraine pain because of
hormones.
Hormones, luteal phase, just drop of progesterone and estrogen. And that was more of a lifestyle, nutritional supplementation aspect. So I would say, depending on the person, if it was hormone driven, maybe 25%, 20% chiropractic, but really I wasn't making the changes until we stepped into the nutrition and supplements and lifestyle.
Okay, got it. So you're kind of more on the physical stressor side. The chiropractic's going to help more with the alignment and the nervous system communication. On the hormone side, we got to make changes above and beyond. That totally makes sense. Now, you kind of went into an area that I love. You talked about the luteal phase. Can we just kind of walk the average listener through what a typical cycle looks like? Follicular, luteal, and can you describe that physiology 101 for the listeners?
Sure thing. So if you're still having a menstrual cycle, right, which happens between ages 11 to 13 or so, all the way until until menopause. And menopause is defined as the cease of a menstrual cycle for about a year. It's usually usually the roller coaster where we're really feeling it is in perimenopause, right? That's when things really begin to change. But basically in the follicular phase, we've got the increase of estrogen levels, right? It kind of peaks at ovulation and then starts to dip and go down. At that point in the luteal phase, we step into luteal phase, our progesterone levels begin to go up. Also in the follicular phase, we got testosterone levels going up too, naturally, but then everything starts to drop towards the end of luteal phase. Right. And depending on how fast those hormones are plummeting, really kind of dictates PMS, right? That premenstrual cycle as we're moving out of that. And so what I find that with women, if indeed we have a really sharp decline, or maybe they didn't even necessarily have a big increase in progesterone to begin with, we're going to see things like migraines. We're going to see things like bloating, mood swings, a lot of those symptoms that we see around PMS. So that's basically the physiology. And the only reason why we even get an increase in progesterone is if we actually ovulate. And for some women, sometimes that isn't even the case as well. So it's really important to look at all of those things, to run tests. My favorite test for looking at hormones is the Dutch test. I usually recommend it during the luteal phase. Okay,
cool. So you're running like a Dutch complete, like around day 19 to 22-ish, kind of to get that peak. And then do you run the month-long panels at all?
I have not in the past, but I know how important those can be. Okay. Yes. And usually when I was testing, it was I would test every quarter.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'll typically run the month-long ones if they're more of a fertility case, but then I'll do a lot of, the snapshot in that peak of the luteal phase. And I can't tell you, I think you said it just right. I see so many women these days that are coming in with either massive luteal phase defects where that luteal phase is just shortened, or that progesterone's just dropped out significantly. Instead of 15 to 20 or so on that Dutch test, they're less than 5 even. And that's really concerning. And then that kind of puts these women into maybe an estrogen-dominant situation. Can you describe what that is?
Absolutely. So estrogen, that's really interesting that you ask. A couple things about estrogen dominance. I get so many questions around this. You can actually have low estrogen and still be estrogen dominant. Yes. So it's really the relationship between estrogen and progesterone. And so often, given what we're exposed to every single day, given our stress levels, so not only lifestyle, but also environmental, we do find that women tend to have more estrogen in the system than progesterone. And there are multiple factors, right? Progesterone could be stolen from our cortisol level, cortisol, the progesterone still. So there's a multiple facets, but what we're finding in a lot of women is that just by the sheer fact of life that we're living, that estradiol is going to be higher than normal compared to progesterone. And there's a lot of things that we can do about that for sure. And we can definitely get into that.
Yes. Yeah, very cool. And I'm even seeing a lot of women too that are low progesterone, but also low estrogen. Are you noticing that at all too?
That's been me.
Oh, That's just the hormones. They're just so depleted, right?
They're so depleted. Yes, they're absolutely depleted. And that has a lot to do with, I find so often with women that it has a lot to do with the stress that we're living.
Yes.
That's very much the key indicator. We start burning out all of our hormones, or we stop creating a process where we're making them in a sufficient manner.
Very cool. I want to highlight one mechanism because, you were an upper cervical chiropractor specialist, and we talked about chiropractic and on the headache side. And part of how that could happen is if there's stress and inflammation in the spine by misalignment or poor movement, that's going to stimulate a lot of cortisol to help with the inflammation. And we know, just for the listeners, cortisol pulls from progesterone. You mentioned that. Mm-hmm. So when we get rid of the inflammation and we help the alignment and the brain communicate better with the spine, that can decrease that progesterone steal because we're not pulling from the cortisol as much. Does that sound right?
It does. You also have to, I always tell people, you can't chiropractic or green smoothie your way out of chronic stress.
Yeah, I agree.
Because it's how you perceive the environment. If you're continuing to create an environment, I always talk about women having rushing women syndrome. If you are racing from one thing to the next, you're going to constantly be in a situation. This is not medical terms, but I call it the clutch the pearls syndrome, where you're constantly clutching the pearls.
Right. Exactly.
So if you're constantly in that state, there's going to be no doctor that I know that there's no supplement, there's no green smoothies, there's no nothing that's really going to get our bodies back on track until we change the way that we are behaving in accordance to our environment.
Totally. That's why a good functional medicine doctor, they're going to investigate the physical stressors. They're going to investigate the chemical stressors. That could be, like you mentioned, the chronic stress state, the sleep, the poor food, the inflammatory food, the infections, the hormones maybe coming from the environment, from food and pesticides and glyphosate. That totally makes sense. And you mentioned the Dutch testing, and that's interesting because a lot of people, I find, at least more on the medical side, I find it, they look at the hormones, like the female hormones, the male hormones, but a lot of times they miss the adrenal hormone components.
They absolutely do.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit more about how the adrenals and why they're so important to healthy female hormone function?
Absolutely. So and I wouldn't necessarily see, I always think about the adrenals being the receivers of information. They have a very important job, and that is to listen to what the brain says. I always talk about the hepatic thalamic pituitary axis, right? That relationship between what we're receiving, the HPA axis, and that information that's relayed to the adrenals. And I always talk about menopause and perimenopause being more of a stress condition than it is more of a hormone condition. Mm-hmm. Because if our adrenals aren't supporting us, if our chronic stresses aren't stress isn't under control, we're going to throw those hormones out because it's all interconnected. And at the end of the day, Dr. Justin, and you know this more than I do, is that we are hardwired for survival.
Yes.
There are two jobs biologically that we're supposed to do. One, survive, and two, pass down genes. So reproduce, right? So you've got a new baby coming on the way, right? Yeah. And then when they have babies, well, then you are an evolutionary success. So our bodies, that's the purpose. Now, hardwiring towards survival means that we have to give up a lot of other things. Our digestive system, our reproductive system takes a hit. You are a great thyroid expert. You know that the thyroid definitely overcompensates for what's going on as well. But I wouldn't necessarily see, and yes, you can definitely create adrenal fatigue over time. But yes, it takes a while for the adrenals to finally say, enough is enough. Yes. I cannot take this anymore. But I find that where we really got to focus our efforts is right here in the limbic system. Mm-hmm. That's where we need to change the chemical conversation. Because if that HPA axis is continuing to upregulate every single day, well, the adrenals are just like, dude, I'm just doing my job.
Right.
I gotta release this adrenaline. I gotta release this cortisol. That's my job. Until one day I'm like, I can't do my job anymore. I can't handle it. So I would say that really, I always want to work on the HPA axis first before I even begin to look actually at adrenal health. So often I see that women have an outpouring of cortisol, maybe DHEA is deregulated, but the adrenals are still high functioning for a while. So that I usually want to get to that root first, which is I find right here. Yeah.
Very interesting. And it could be just semantics. I look at the HPA axis as like the person in the old horse and buggy that's whipping a tired horse. The tired horse maybe being the adrenals, or the ovaries. So yeah, it makes sense.
Or
We
the
want
thyroid. Oh
yeah,
my
or the
goodness.
thyroid, or you can even go and you can
Or your
connect,
gut, or your
right?
poor darn liver.
Yeah.
That liver is just like, I can't pour out enough glycogen. Like that's where we get diabetes. It's where we get insulin
100%.
sensitivity.
So you're talking about really getting the communication and these feedback loops dialed back in. Can we just go into some strategies? What are things that you're doing with your patients or the people that are, reading your work? What are the top 3 things? And if you want to qualify them with certain situations, that'd be helpful too.
Absolutely. So, we're talking about kind of that. I think the first step, I always talk about the unexpected solution to health and radical self-healing is awareness. If you're not aware that you're putting crap into your body, it's really difficult to make those changes.
Yes.
If you're not aware that you've got a gluten intolerance, you're going to probably still continue to eat gluten, right?
Yep.
And if you're not aware that you are running from one thing to the next and that you're living in a high stress situation, you're just going to keep doing what you're doing. So I think the first step really is self-awareness, recognizing that something is not right. And I know for me, I thought I could green smoothie my way out of chronic stress. I also thought I could chiropractic my way out of chronic stress. And it didn't work. I had to figure out that I had this operating system, this feedback loop that was firing whether or not I knew it or not. So I think some of the most important things is, one, we definitely live in a time of isolation. I'm so grateful for this technology that you and I could be talking right here. But what would be even better is if we were right together, right?
Yeah.
So
totally.
Having friends on speed dial, having people and family in your life that you can give hugs to, that you can connect with, kind of boost that oxytocin level, that cuddle hormone. Just being connected with people is number 1. Number 2, I love the power of plant-based medicine. So I love essential oils. I think having a tool like a little oil like this, bergamot and lavender, we know has been researched time and time again to lower serum cortisol levels, lower blood pressure, and lower pulse point. But most importantly, they disrupt the cycle from sympathetic to parasympathetic in that HPA axis. And I want to disrupt the cycle. I want to get into the habit. So not only does the chemistry, by breathing the oils in, go to the limbic brain to disrupt the cycle, but the intention of you grabbing that oil, making a decision like, hey, I feel like I'm having a moment. Yes. That begins to change the cycle as well.
Very cool.
Other things, Oh,
go ahead.
Oh, I got some other things. I do love adaptogenic herbs. I do love ashwagandha. I love rhodiola. I love holy basil. Any of them, all of them. It depends on I think testing is important to kind of understand what's going on. But I do love those adaptogenic herbs because they also work on the limbic brain and the HPA axis. I also think food plays a big role. I know I did say that you can't green smoothie your way out of chronic stress, but man, those important nutrients can really help support the body if indeed you're just in a scenario right now where you're like, you know what, Dr. Mariza and Dr. Justin, I hear you, but right now I have to live in this emergency state for a little bit. Life dictates that for me. So those are some of the big things that I normally recommend for people. Then breathing, exercise, yoga, just pausing for a moment throughout the day, just that self-awareness, and then self-care. I think self-care is the game change. So those would be some of the lifestyle techniques that I always recommend to women to start implementing if they're looking to start with that root thing, that HPA axis, so that we can start to change the conversation that's happening inside of the body.
Interesting. And now when you're looking at people, and let's say you're giving essential oils that are proven to lower cortisol, right? Are you concerned if someone already has lower cortisol, or are you going to be using other adaptogens that may, have an up and down kind of bump in the right direction? So how are you evaluating that when you're making specific recommendations?
Absolutely. So yes, could we have a situation where someone has significantly, like at that point, they've deregulated cortisol levels to such a degree that they have lowered cortisol levels? Yes. And so in those particular instances, I'm now looking more at, and clearly there are essential oils who can help boost cortisol, things like rosemary and peppermint and citrus oils. So we're looking at a different response. And then yes, looking at different adaptogenic herbs to make those changes to heal the body so we can get you back to a baseline, but also making those lifestyle changes as well. I mean, if indeed just grabbing an oil just to have that moment for yourself, I think that is important. It's nice. Especially if you're having a hard time going to sleep at night. But yeah, I mean, I think that there is, in all instances, everything is case by case.
Interesting. Is there any herb that you recommend that you feel is just a really good multitasker where your cortisol could be low and it may give you a little pick me up, and it could also be a little bit high and you could be stressed and it could kind of bring you down? Is there anything in that category?
I think rhodiola is what your go-to
Rhodiola.
there. I like it the most. I feel like it not only helps
Mhm.
support mitochondrial function, which
Yeah.
I love, but it also can meet you both ways. I think more than ashwagandha, rhodiola really is one of those adaptogenic herbs that will kind of give you what you need.
Okay, cool. I'm going to go a little bit deeper here. Can we talk about some of the nutritional compounds that are in these herbs? Are you aware of some of we talked about the adaptogenic components. Are there nutritional compounds that we're also getting from some of these essential oils that are helping us as well? Kind of like vitamins and minerals or polyphenols. What's happening there?
Yeah, so essential oils aren't nutrition. I mean, some of them can definitely have antioxidant benefits, especially like citrus oils, but I don't necessarily consider them nutrition so much as I consider them as being powerful, kind of organic chemistry, right? That really can work in the body and aid in the body. So nutritionally, I usually still lend to a plant-based nutrition or supplementation. If someone is deficient in magnesium, well, we got to get them some magnesium. If they're deficient in B vitamins, then activated B vitamins are going to be what I recommend. But usually what I use essential oils for most importantly is to bridge the gap for the lifestyle changes that we know we should be doing, we just aren't doing. So for instance, if we're having a hard time going to bed every single night because we cannot shut off our brain, or we just prefer to work instead, whatever that may be. You're in your phone, you're on your iPad or whatever that may be. Like I was just on the phone with my grandma today. I was on the phone with both my grandmas for different reasons, but my little Mexican grandma, my mother's mother, I called her and my grandma's like, every night before I go to bed, I just watch you. I watch you before I go to bed. And I'm just like, okay. I'm like, well, do you learn anything from it? And she's like, no, I don't know. She just watches me. And I was like, Grandma, you really shouldn't be on your iPad before bed. Like, just giving her, anyway, it's just a really funny moment. But I think so many people are like my grandma, where they're on YouTube or they're on, I don't even know where she's watching me. I have no idea. But having a ritual where you're utilizing essential oils, like the process of lavender, bergamot, cedarwood, clary sage, whatever those oils are, getting into the habit of creating this behavior, but also knowing that chemistry is helping to really calm down the brain as well, because they're all very calming essential oils. So that's kind of how I'd love to leverage them. How can we use them to set an evening ritual where you're calming down the brain and going to bed? How do you use them to go to the gym every single day? Like I love peppermint and wild orange as an instant energizer bunny. How do you use them for productivity and energy and alertness and working memory, right? A combination of peppermint, rosemary, and frankincense, that's going to do that for you. So I think when it comes to these lifestyle changes, this self-care, if we have these oils that can punctuate how we live our life, that's how I love to use them in aiding in the daily decisions that we make. Either hopefully you start your day with great decisions that lead to more great decisions, and you're leveraging that chemistry to just have a really great experience.
Very cool. And is there anything you use synergistically outside of diet and lifestyle? Are there any of the nutrients that you will use supplementally to synergize with essential oils? I'm just kind of throwing it out there. Maybe like magnesium and lavender or something like that. Is there anything you've seen clinically?
Yeah, gosh, that's a good question. You know what? I'm in clinically, yes. I guess maybe case by case for me. I don't know if there's a lot of research where we're seeing a lot of the combinations of herbs and oils or vitamins and minerals and oils. What I do know is that like when you're heading to bed at night, let's say it's lavender, and maybe you're using something like melatonin, or maybe you're using something like evening primrose. I think that those can have a really profound impact. Let's say that you are using I recommend turmeric. I recommend omegas. I recommend some for cognitive function in particular. But I also know that rosemary, the chemical constituent rosemary, which is 1,8 cinnalol, actually helps to increase acetylcholine in the brain. And so it really pairs well. Yeah. So it pairs well with, I think, really important supplements that can help boost brain function. But just breathing in rosemary will literally increase working memory by 75% then and there, without taking omegas. But you should be taking omegas anyway, DHEA. Right? So it just, not DHEA, gosh, anyway, the point is when you're taking those omegas, you're boosting memory and brain function. So I guess in a sense, I'm usually telling people to be consistent with them so that you're getting the response that you want. But I also am recommending supplements because I feel like when we're coming to longevity and really changing those biological processes, that we have that in place as well.
Okay, very cool. All right, I got some rapid fire questions here. I'm putting you on the spot. You ready?
All right.
All right, you already said one. I'll answer it for you. Memory, your favorite essential oil sounded like it was rosemary. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay, good. Anxiety, favorite.
Anxiety, lavender and vetiver.
Good. Depression.
Oh my goodness. Frankincense, Melissa. I'm giving you more than one. Frankincense, Melissa, and citrus oils.
Excellent. Pain in a joint.
I would say, camphor is really what I'm looking for, but camphor can be found in wintergreen. I also love copaiba for its connection with the kind of works similar to CBD. So it connects with the CBD receptors, the CBD2 receptors in the body.
I know we're talking about that endocannabinoid system. That makes sense.
Yes, exactly.
What about brain fog?
Brain fog. So I love rosemary, peppermint, frankincense, same kind of concept there.
Good. How about something like an ear infection?
Ear infection. So I love tea tree oil. So tea tree oil is a great antiseptic, antibacterial. But so my go-to for ear infections is tea tree, basil, and lavender around the ear, diluted at around a 25% dilution. Okay.
And is there any other chronic issues or situations that you get asked a lot that I didn't mention yet?
Gut all day, every day. So,
cool. Let's do it.
Right. So in, gut it's a whole nother conversation, and it's actually 100 different conversations.
Totally.
So let's say you are having an acute gut issue. Maybe you decided to eat pizza on a Friday night and you knew better and you didn't take your enzymes, or you took your enzymes, but it still didn't matter because you have gluten and dairy sensitivities. So I love a blend. It's a combination of fennel, peppermint, and ginger. And so, and I'm not saying that those oils are going to cure what's going on there, but at least it's going to lessen the acute symptoms that's happening inside of the gut. And so I just make up a little roller like this, 10 to 15 drops of each, roll it over the stomach. And those 3 oils have been researched, particularly because of the herbs. The chemical constituents in those oils have been researched to really calm down things like bloating, constipation, diarrhea, and just pain in the gut that could be happening in the small and large intestine. Yeah, and a lot of those oils too stimulate acid production, enzyme production naturally as well. So you're kind of getting the body to pinch in to help as well. Yeah, and peristalsis as well. So we're moving through. Yeah. Then another one, I've treated migraines and headaches for so many years. I do love a combination of lavender, peppermint, and frankincense. That's kind of my power combo. Again, in a roller, 10 to 15 drops of each. For me, it's if you can catch that migraine on time, it's always cervicogenic for so many people. So always start back here and just get those oils on, every 30 minutes. So that's the option instead of a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory. That's great. And you mentioned earlier, we talked about luteal phase defect and or low progesterone in that last half of the cycle. Is there anything essential oil wise that you do to help support that luteal phase or that low progesterone / PMS hormonal environment? Absolutely. So my go-to oil, I call it the Beyonce of hormone oils, is Clary Sage. Oh, cool. But I have a blend. It's called my Superwoman blend. And it's actually what this is right here. This is what I've been holding up all day. Oh, cool. And it's designed for, it's kind of luteal phase defect, helping to boost progesterone levels. So the 2 go-to oils for boosting progesterone levels are going to be Clary Sage and thyme. Now, thyme, not the sexiest smell in the world, but you can definitely make up a blend like that on the bottom of the feet or right over the ovaries. This one doesn't have thyme, but it has geranium, which can also do that. What I also love about geranium is it helps the liver in the phase 1 and phase 2 of the detoxification pathways that helps to break down estrogen metabolites. So I do love geranium for that. So this is 12 drops of Clary Sage, 10 drops of lavender, 5 drops of geranium, 5 drops of cedarwood. It's a blend, and 4 drops of ylang-ylang. And so applying it over the ovaries or right here, because remember, oils are lipophilic, so they go straight into the bloodstream. Exactly. Right here in the wrist. I love it on my neck as well. And just a couple times a day. It's also great for mood support, and it's great for cravings and energy. So it's kind of a multifaceted essential oil, but I have women using it for their periods and PMS all the time, all over the country and all over the world, and with great success. So I love this blend.
Very cool. Very cool. Now, one of my biggest pet peeves, just because this could be a hormonal stressor as well, and it just drives me crazy, is when guys either have like a strong cologne or women have a strong perfume on, what can be an essential oil alternative, for a woman or for a man that could kind of still give them that smell that they want, but it wouldn't be non-toxic and drive people crazy?
Absolutely. I have a lot of perfume blends. It depends on the person. The Superwoman blend for women, a lot of women wear it as perfume because it smells great. And who doesn't want side benefits, right? That's what I love. But with guys, so you think about most colognes, the base note is vetiver. And vetiver is a powerful neurological essential oil.
Yes.
Unfortunately, you're getting a synthetic version in cologne. Vetivers, citruses, myrrhs, frankincense, sandalwoods, those are all oils that are used in colognes. I don't have a very specific male cologne recipe in my head right now, but there's a lot of them out there. And a lot of guys use them. My husband's made up his own thing. I have no idea what's in that blend, but he does his thing. And then for me, I'm obsessed with jasmine and rose. So I wear a combination of jasmine and rose. Jasmine, what's really interesting is that jasmine's been researched to help women overcome postpartum depression. It's also a libido booster. And then rose is just a really powerful, beautiful essential oil. So that combo is just so beautiful to me. My husband loves it. Jasmine's intoxicating. And so a lot of women really gravitate towards jasmine. Yeah.
Very cool. Now, do you manufacture your own essential oils, or do you have certain lines out there that you like or you think are really high quality?
I think when it comes to I do not manufacture. Oh my goodness. The amount of effort and time and research that goes into these oils is just profound. When I always tell people is when you're researching the company, and I do have a company that I prefer, but make sure that company, they tell you where they're sourcing their oils. Where are these oils coming from, right? Each and every one of those oils that I mentioned a minute ago in that Superwoman blend come from a different country. All over the world, and different, very small batch growers are growing those in a very, in an organic type of setting. Then once those oils are produced and harvested in a sustainable way, I want to know how they're tested. Do they use gas chromatography? Are they using spectroscopy? Are they using chirality testing? Are they using microbial testing? How are they testing these oils? And a third party laboratory should be testing the oils to really guarantee their efficacy. And if it's a really great company, there will be a lot number on that label where you can pull up the testing of that batch. So that's what I'm looking for when I'm looking for oils. Because if you're trying to use these for therapeutic benefit, well, then you just don't want to put crap on your body.
Got it. Is there any specific essential oil companies that you know of that meet those standards you just mentioned?
Yes, there are a couple. My go-to favorite is doTERRA. I'm a big fan of it. I'm a doTERRA girl. And I've been using them for years. I've been recommending them to millions of people as well with great success. So I feel really confident with the quality control that they implement.
Awesome. Very cool. And I know today we were really getting into a lot of the essential oils and the hormone connection, which is great. And this is kind of, I think, a perfect segue for you to kind of dive in and just give people a little sneak preview about your book, which is going to be, I think, a more in-depth version of this conversation.
Absolutely. So I have a new book coming out. I don't know when this is airing, but I do have a new book coming out. It's called The Essential Oils Hormone Solution. And it literally, not only do I go into the why, the biochemical why of what's going on in the body. Because so often women are like, well, what do you have for menopause? And I'm just like, well, what about menopause is the concern, and what if it isn't menopause at all? Maybe it's something else. And so understanding the chemical implications, what's going on with our hormones, then giving women oils, protocols, self-care, it's all built in. And then I have a 14-day hormone reset program that contains my hormone trifecta, which is a combination of food, oils, and self-care. And when you put those things together, it really is magic. So that is what the book entails. 400 pages. So it's a pretty big book with 40 pages of bibliography. So I did hundreds of hours of research for this book.
That's amazing. And then the book's called what? The Essential? Can you repeat it again?
Oh yeah, The Essential Oils Hormone Solution. You guys, this is what it looks like, and it's on Amazon. It's selling like hotcakes, which makes me so happy. Yes, well, it's right now. It's for pre-order, but people are buying it.
Great. I'm going to put the Amazon links down below. So if anyone's listened to this on the iTunes or YouTube, just click below and you'll be able to get it. That's awesome. Is there any other information at all you want to share with the listeners here before we wrap up?
I would just say, I think the biggest message that you and I probably bring to the table is that you really are the CEO of your health. You know, there's a lot of great practitioners out there like Dr. Justin and myself who can really guide you on this path, but just know that there's ownership for you, and that you don't need to be told that you're just going to have to live with this disease or this condition, that there's definitely a way out. It's just a matter of deciding that, yes, it's time for me, and this reaching out to people like ourselves, listening to Dr. Justin's podcast, because that's exactly what we're here to do, is to really navigate that journey for you so that you're making the best decisions for your health.
Very cool. And if listeners want to get more information about you, where's the best place to go?
So I have a podcast myself. It's called the Essentially You Podcast, and it's a great place to find me. It's great everywhere. Name. I have other books as well, but then my website is drmariza.com. I have a fun, awesome little cheat sheet there on the top 5 oils for hormone balance. You can guys go and grab that. And then if you do pre-order the book, I have $300 worth in bonuses that instantly get delivered to your inbox. You can get started right away. So even if you're like, man, the book isn't going to be here for a couple weeks, no worries. The bonuses will hook you up until the book arrives.
Very cool. And just for the listeners, there's a silent Z in that name here, drmariza.com. And I see a cool little opt-in on the top 5 essential oils for hormone balance. So while you're up there, feel free and get that. Dr. Mariza, anything else you want to add?
I think that's it. I think we covered a good amount of information. Dr. Justin, thank you so much for the great questions. It was such a pleasure to be here.
Thanks for being a part of the podcast. Thanks, Dr. Mariza.
Mm-hmm.
Got a question for Dr. J? Go to beyondwellnessradio.com and click the questions button. Then tune in to hear the answer. Also, if you like the show, click below to review us on iTunes. For more Beyond Wellness Radio, go to beyondwellnessradio.com.